Good evening. Who was that? Alfred Hitchcock. Um, there are things that happen when they happen, which are magnetic moments or the completion of a circuit. And so I thought I would highlight this a little bit because I ran out of time on my last video because I use my phone, which doesn't have a mountain of memory, right? About how I translate the environment that I'm operating in with an operating system, right? A supercomputer, an antenna, that my soul and spirit, which are integrated, is experiencing, if you will, the battlefield. Okay, because you know that you jumped into a spiritual battlefield for all the marbles, which means that's for your soul and your spirit. So what you're doing is you're translating the environment, which means you're translating the information codes because you're experiencing visual information in your mirror. Okay. So now what I was doing from childhood was measuring what we call the landscape or the terrain or the operating environment that I'm finding myself in with all the different communicators that are here communicating with each other. So I'm measuring the loss and gain or the electrical resistance between what? Negative and positive polarity. Okay. And so that's pretty simple. I've covered that. But in this case, what I do is I monitor different sites that have particularly very large subscribers or what you would call followers. Okay. So there's a reason that you subscribe to a channel because you're attracted to the information that the information is informing you of what the informer is providing for you in visual information. Now that's being recorded in your RAM, which is read active memory, because you're recording it magnetically with your software in your RAM. That's basic computer science. Okay. That's what your Android does. That's what your PC does. That's what your laptop does. Oh, you got RAM, right? Okay, so you know you're operating a supercomputer, right? So you're running molten voltage, right, through your arteries and your veins, through your circuits, and how fast? Because your hydroelectric power plant, wastewater treatment system, right? Living water, dead water zones, and all that. Okay, so here's a site that I go to from time to time called Dutchsinse. Now, this doesn't mean this guy's a bad guy. He's an information provider, a visual information provider, like an ISP, an internet service provider, a visual information provider. Okay, so what is the information you're providing that I can see on my mirror, in my screen? So that's what he does. He puts up the information. Now you're experiencing the information and you're recording it in your cellular RAM memory. Right? Water's memory. And you're mostly water. Okay, so these are codes, mathematical codes, computer codes. Right? So you know that if you've got a lot of fire in you, you're going to be able to ignite a lot of codes in your DNA so that they fire ignite. And now you're aware of what that is because you have enough fire in you to get all the codes. So you know how time-space works with the width of the wave. The shorter the wave, the higher the speed, the more of those codes that are firing, which are fire letters. Right? So when you're a polarity integrator, which simply means is minus/plus between going back in time, forward in time, but there is no time when you're at 0 ohms, which is a magnetosphere. You're in balance, baby, with your water worlds. So when you've already chosen to serve forever, which is what love is, it goes on forever, then it makes it easy to translate the terrain that you're in because you're measuring the difference in the resistance, which is the torque speed between them and you, whoever that is, okay, that's communicating with you with their antenna, which is their operating system. So in this particular case, what I do is I'm reading the terrain between those that are integrated with AI because we're in an AI system, okay? And this is when we get into the quantum mapping system, the quantum probability function, and what's called quantum mapping. So if you've ever studied and done research and worked with what is known GIS systems, which is geographical information systems, which is a map. I'm sure a lot of people have read a topographical map. That gives you the elevation and what have you, right? So you can imagine if you've got satellites up there, they're mapping the planet, right? I remember there was a great program called NASA Eyes, which provided an enormous amount of data that was going on, right? But you also know what's controlling the data. So you know they can insert holographically false data because that's the nature of what they do. Why? Because they're psychopaths. A psychopath, which is the mental field, without soul and spirit and powerful emotional energy to experience a higher octave of Trinity, joined as one with Neo. You can't fool Neo and Trinity. Joined as one, which is the monopole. It's always in balance. Okay, so that allows you to translate the train pretty easy because you're measuring the resistance, which is the electrical density of the consciousness that is communicating to you. So you know the planet fell in spirit in battle in the negative magnetic polarity space because you're experiencing the density. Really dense. Okay, so you understand how density works. Density consciousness, population density consciousness. So I was just looking at a video on my little Facebook. The newly elected, I guess, governor of the state of Arizona. And what they do is they speak in coded language, properly educated. In other words, she's saying with a little smile on her face, and she was wearing a pink shirt or blouse with a black jacket, black and pink and black. Okay? With a smiley on her face, saying that now it's sort of like the same message as President Trump, make America great again. We want to make Arizona the greatest state. And she used a couple words, properly educated. You want to know what that's code for? Properly programmed. We're going to make sure that what your children learn when they come into our programming schools, which is an API, that they're properly programmed, which means the information we provide for them is going to be recorded in their cellular memory according to us. Okay. This is why when I was in their schools, it's the same stuff. Okay. Their schools versus Mama Earth. So now you get into the native tribal clans and tribes. And so you realize that we have a different teacher. Okay. In spirit, with a soul, with an oversoul. Okay. So when you're learning through a powerful spiritual teacher, you're learning through the land and the water worlds, right? Spin rotation. So it's just more that they just keep spilling more of the same stuff, which simply means that they're communicating who they are, how they translate who they are with the universe that they live in with their mind's energy. So it's all about programming the reality that you experience through them, because they're the ones that are choosing for you what you're going to experience through them, because they're going to program it into your cellular memory. So they're programmers. Yeah. And they're choosing for your children what it is. Now we get into Future Proof's Past, Back to the Future. Because the very idea they would ever lose control of what they can put in your child's memory to experience in the future, with the day determined for your children what they will experience in the future as a result of that RAM. That's a psychopath. That's an AI pathway. That's an artificial intelligence integration pathway, which is machine programming codes. Want to be a robot? Go right ahead. That's your free will choice to go do that. Metropolis, here we are in 1927. Now you can jumpstart that into Blade Runner. We got another version of another cyborg we programmed. Okay. So in this particular case with Dutchsinse, one of the other code translations of knowing who they really are is their language of how they communicate. So one of the things that I noticed that he was doing was letting people know how good he was at what? Prediction. How great he was able to predict in the future what he would inform others was going to happen in that future, using the visual information superhighway that gets recorded in RAM, that you're going to experience other earthquakes in these other places. So he was telling you what's going to happen in the future, And if you believe that, then you're going to record that belief. The information that's he given to you, which is a quantum probability function of what the future that you experience by virtue of recording in your memory the information that he's giving you. So you know the side that he's on. And so today he posted a fairly lengthy reply to me, because now I'm posting information which is called language codes, right? And so a lady was nice enough and kind enough to say that's the best explanation I've ever experienced. So what I did is I basically broke it down. Record 1, play 2, rewind, erase memory, reprogram. Okay. Right? So Dutch realized somebody's on my channel here, either trying to deprogram somebody who's putting codes in here that are waking people up. Okay, I got to respond to this. So you realize with as many subscribers as Dutchsinse have, go look at how many subscribers this guy. This guy's got t-shirts, mugs, all kinds of stuff. That's a salesman. So when you have somebody that's given his own self attaboy, look how great I am because of how well I'm predicting. And then he starts playing that game about, hey, they shut down my internet. Oh, well, man, they're coming after me. You know why he does stuff like that? Oh, I'm a good guy. The bad guys are after me. Now we're back into that movie that I mentioned called Triple Cross with Christopher Plummer with the Nazis. See, the Nazis thought he was working for them, right? And the British thought that he was working for them. But he was really working for somebody else, which was himself. Which means he really wasn't on either one of those sides, but each of those other sides thought he was working for them. That's called Triple Cross. Triple Cross is a great educational movie about how the war of deception is fought between computers, particularly those that are integrated with artificial intelligence, versus souls integrated in spirit as teachers. That's the battlefield. Otherwise known as the battle for the mind's energy. Okay? So you realize how programming works, and what you're choosing to hold in memory and what you're choosing not to hold in memory. So when you are what love is, no memory required, no batteries required, because that's the law of least effort, baby. Right? Which means I'm experiencing love everywhere I go. Love is forever. Gifting energy. So I try and simply remind myself this is the game, although it's not a game, because the battle is for the mind of the soul, because the soul is energy, which is consciousness that is running the operating system integrated with your spirit. So your spirit is what's leading you in the mirror. So you want to run a hot mirror, right? So you're burning off all the parasitic stuff. You're burning off what doesn't serve you in your mirror, which is anything less than what love is. Right? So you're able to measure the difference. So now when you get into all the attachments of the things that you're associated with that aren't serving your best interest because of you wanting to improve your health and wellness, which is your emotional state, your spiritual state, and the health of your soul, then you're going to begin to realize as you're waking up, because the spirit is waking you up, in order to purify your spirit, which is getting rid of all the junk, which is the stuff that we're exposed to, so you're running a faster state of BMR, which is your basic metabolic rate. Now you get into the telomeres. So essentially what you're doing is you're clearing all the codes. Of the codes you no longer want to hold in your cellular RAM. Okay, which is the program interface. So you're getting rid of all the programming that they were programming, right? To hold our energy captive in order to feed on us, because they realize how powerful we are, because love is the most powerful energy. Because once you're experiencing what love is, the spirit is free. Now you're experiencing an enormous amount of fire, and that bulb is lit, which is your mirror. So anyway, I thought it was sort of funny because he finally replied to me, and he gave me a biblical response and started quoting the Bible. So I know what that means. Okay. So I realized, okay, Dutch. Yeah, I remember who the Dutch were. Right? Doesn't mean he's a bad guy, but Dutchsinse, right? Dutch. Go look at the history of America when they invaded America. Space invaders, intruders into Eden. Okay, they set up a couple of companies Go look at the early history of America when Columbus hit. Right of, what was it called? The right of conquest. Therefore, if I've conquered you, I have the right to control the space and thus charge you for your own space because that space I conquered. That's how it works. That's what they did. So in other words, as Russell Means once said, they want to have everybody on the reservation, which means they want everybody under control, which is your inverted triangle, which is the top-down pyramid. We want everybody below us under our control. Anyway, have a good evening. I love you all. Be good to yourselves.